Hare Krishna, good evening. While we're waiting for hordes of people to turn up, might as well make a start, yeah? Thank you very much for coming out this evening, on this nice warm evening. Down to Rochester, it's very nice to see you all. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm very pleased to welcome our special guest this evening. I think twice in 2 months now. About two times now in 2 months. We were honoured. It's very, very nice. It's always gives me great pleasure to welcome this great Bhagavat Ashraya. Thank you very much for coming. And as usual, I think we should welcome Bhagavat in the usual way, by putting our hands in the air, please, and chanting very loudly 3 Haribols. Haribo! 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 So it gives me great pleasure. I'm very, very pleased to see you, Prabhu. Thank you very much for coming. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for having me. Hare Krishna. Haribo. How are we? Everybody well? Hot, isn't it? Hot for England. But it's not hot for Australia. Last summer, I was in England, in Australia during the last summer there. We had 40 degrees for like days on end. So, anyway, it's nice to have this weather in England, isn't it? England's like paradise when the sun shines. When the sun shines. Everybody well? Thank you for coming. I always like to thank people for coming. Prabhupada always used to thank everybody. He used to thank his disciples. At the end of it, Kirtan, he'd do the prema prayers, prema dwani prayers. Jayam Vishnu Pada. Then he'd end with all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. And the devotees would repeat, and then he'd say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And at the end of his classes, he'd always say, thank you very much. So, actually, gratitude is a very important thing, to be grateful. Because actually, we can't and shouldn't take anything for granted. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, in all activities, you just depend upon me and work under my protection. In such devotional service, you become fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will cross over all the obstacles of material life by my grace. If, however, you do not hear me, but act out of false ego, you will be lost in this world. A very powerful statement Krishna's making here. And the word depend comes, it's a Latin word, depend. Pend means to hang, like you have a pending file that's hanging there. You've got to do something about it, right? Or you have a pendulum. It's something that hangs and swings. So to depend means to hang from. So Krishna says, in all activities you just depend on me. And when you, and then he says, and work under my protection, and in such devotional service become fully conscious of me. One time Srila Prabhupada was asked by a reporter, what is the purpose of your Krishna consciousness movement? And Prabhupada, he said that's very simple. It is to create consciousness of Krishna. And as we become conscious of Krishna, then we understand we are completely dependent on Krishna. Just for air, Who supplies the air? We have to pay the water bill, we have to pay the electricity bill, the light bill, the power bill, but we don't have to pay the air bill. Of course, in one sense we do have to pay the bill because we dirty the air up, and then it costs a lot of money. But we have to, somebody supplies us. The water company supplies the water, the electricity company supplies the electricity. So who supplies the air? So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. He says these 8 together constitute my separated material energies. So Krishna's providing the air. And how long can you live without air? You see these people, what are they, free divers? People who dive for pearls and things. They learn how to dive into the water very deeply and hold their breath for a long time, 5-6 minutes. But most of us couldn't hold our breath and survive for more than a minute or 2. So it's not hard actually to begin to depend on Krishna, consciously understand that we are dependent on Krishna. Of course, you have to accept that this Krishna is who he says he is. One of the problems with editions of the Bhagavad Gita, editions of Bhagavad Gita that claim to be interpreting the Gita as it is extracting some meanings from the Bhagavad Gita. But Srila Prabhupada used to point out that all of those commentaries on Bhagavad Gita don't accept Krishna. The speaker of the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna. He uses the word aham, which means I, or me, so many times in Bhagavad Gita. I am the source of the light of the sun. No, I am the light of the sun. I am the light of the moon. I am the taste in liquids. People used to say to Prabhupada, can you show me God? He said, well, you can see God if you understand, if you have proper knowledge and understanding, you can see God at every moment. We all see the sun every day. We all see the moon at night. But we don't understand because we're not educated properly. This is a problem. With proper education, we would understand so many things. Education, educate means to lead out of educate, to lead out of ignorance. We're all born in ignorance. We're all born, we don't know anything. We can't do anything. Imagine the helplessness of a human being when they're born. I mean, I've been staying on this Ahimsa farm. Was it last year or the year before last? The year before last we were there, staying there, and we were out in the barn talking to some people, and all of a sudden somebody said, look, that cow's giving birth. And we saw and she gave birth to a little calf. And first of all, the calf's just like a little heap on the ground. It was like, but then within an hour, it was walking. And we take a good year at least before we start to walk. Helpless. We're helpless as babies. And we're totally dependent. Totally dependent. So this idea of gratitude is very necessary in life. To be grateful for things. there's an old Irish joke. It says, it's a great day to be alive and not in hospital. I'm grateful I'm not in hospital. It's a great day to be alive, but there are a lot of people in hospital right now. That's not a nice place to be. So there's all kinds of things to be grateful for. And we, as devotees, or as aspiring devotees, we owe a great debt of gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. Because if not for him, well, this wouldn't be happening. And not just that this wouldn't be happening, but in this gathering, we are hearing Bhagavad Gita as it is, with full acceptance of Krishna, who he is. It's very simple, actually. When Prabhupada's not giving an interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, a lot of people say that, oh, that's just your guru's interpretation. But Prabhupada's not giving an interpretation saying, when Krishna says this, he means that. Or when people say this to Krishna or about Krishna, they don't mean that, they mean something else. And screwing some meaning out of the very simple words. He's actually elucidating the text. The text is quite clear if you hear it from a devotee of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita is not the property of non-devotees. Krishna is not the property of non-devotees. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha savasya yogamaya samavrita mudo yam nabijanati loko yam najamayayam. He says, I never reveal to the foolish and unintelligent. And who are those foolish and unintelligent? He says in the verse before that, people who are fools think that I have assumed this form and personality. They don't understand my nature, my supreme nature, and my dominance over everything. Everything that exists actually comes from Krishna. Everything is controlled by Krishna. Everything is owned by Krishna. So, gratitude is necessary. Like I say, we can be very grateful to Srila Prabhupada. I think of that, if not for you. There's a Bob Dylan song called If Not For You. Actually, George Harrison made a version of it, and he said, I was thinking of Prabhupada when I sang that song. If not for you, I couldn't even find the door. That's an interesting concept too. Because we're all here because we're really looking for a way out of what's going on out there. Correct? That landed, did it? Yeah. It's so true. But we couldn't find the door, could we? It's like, there's another Bob Dylan song. There must be some way out of here. There must be some way out of here. This situation that we're in, which, what is it? It's a pathway through time and space that inevitably leads to death. And we're brought up in the so-called education system to be preparing ourselves for the future. I saw a sign the other day, special classes in mathematics and English for 3-year-olds. For 3-year-olds. And why have you got to be good at maths and English when you're 3? Because by the time you're 5, you're going to be in hot competition with every other kid that age to get ahead. Why? To get a better future for yourself. It's all about the future, isn't it? In the future, this will come. If you do this, that, or the other. If you prepare yourself properly, you'll have a good future. If you work hard, you'll have a good future. It's all a hoax. It's all a hoax. Because somewhere in that future that you're working so hard to set yourself up for, you're going to die. You're going to die. I talked about this last time, didn't I? About your phone. Everybody's got their schedule in their phone these days. Try to make an appointment and say, well, I'd like to meet you next week at 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon. You say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm dying. Can't meet you. Nobody has that in their agenda. Nobody's got that appointment. But that appointment is there in the future. That appointment is there. So this so-called education that we go through does not prepare us for that inevitability. Well, that's another thing we can be grateful for. Because the proper understanding that comes from Srila Prabhupada's elucidation of the Bhagavad Gita is that this death doesn't apply to us. That we've never been born and we're never going to die. First thing Krishna says to Arjuna is, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings here on this battlefield, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Good news, huh?
Yes,
very good news. That landed too?
yes, absolutely.
Entirely. It's far out, isn't it? We can become, we can become a little like, what do they say, blasé. Little like, take it for granted, as I said earlier. Take these things for granted. But I remember myself, the first time it landed with me. I was reading Bhagavad Gita. I used to work late at nights, and I couldn't sleep after. I'd have my dinner at midnight. So I'd be like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, wide awake. So I bought one of these Bhagavad Gitas and I started reading. And in that second chapter where Krishna starts talking about the nature of the soul, and I couldn't quite get it for a while, because my conditioning was that I had a soul. I had a soul. It brought up that you have your soul. But suddenly I realized what Krishna was saying and what Prabhupada was explaining. Oh, I don't have a soul. I am the soul. I'm this eternal being that Krishna's talking about here. That's me. That's you. It's like he says, Krishna's saying, it's me, it's you, it's everyone. Everyone. That's a hair stand on your end experience. To just suddenly, oh my God, literally, oh my God, this is true. Because when you hear the truth from a person who is living that truth, who is totally faithful to that truth and totally faithful to the source of that truth, it has power. It has power. It touches your heart. Touches your heart. And it's one of those things they say, once seen, you can never unsee it. Yeah? Once seen, you can never unsee it. Like they have those things sometimes where they'll say, what do you see? They'll put a picture up and you think, oh, it's a rabbit. Oh no, it's the head of a rabbit. And oh no, actually it's a beautiful girl's face. And once you've seen both those images, you can never not see them anymore. You might see one thing to start with, but then you see the other. What time do we have to finish? Huh?
Speak up. Speak up.
Another half an hour.
Another half hour at least. Wine must have up there. And this is something to be grateful for, because what's that? You can help me out here. The Pink Floyd song, Time. Walking around on a patch of ground in your hometown.
I wish you were here.
Yeah, no.
Time.
Walking around on a patch of ground in your hometown, waiting for someone or something to come and show you the way. You run to catch up to the sun, but it's sinking. Racing around to come up behind you again. The sun is the same in a relative way, but you're older, shorter of breath, and one day closer to death. But you're walking around on a patch of ground in your hometown, wondering, what am I doing here? Why is this happening? What is going on here? And paramount in all of that is, why do I have to die? I don't want to die. And somebody who wants to die, well, actually, you see very old, decrepit people, they want to die because their life is so painful. The state of the body is so painful. But generally speaking, a fit and healthy person doesn't want to die. Because we want to live. That's why we want to live, and we want to be happy. So another thing to be grateful for is this motto of Srila Prabhupada's chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and be happy. And be happy. So simple. So simple in essence. What we're given is so simple that we just chant. Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That makes you happy. Makes you happy. And then if you understand a little more of the philosophy, you understand why it makes you happy. Because you're in the association of the all-joyful, all-knowing, all-loving Supreme Being. Simply by chanting His name. Anything to do with Krishna is Krishna. Krishna is absolute. This sound vibration is Krishna. Just think about it. You're going to achieve all of this happiness and achieve all of this knowledge simply by the sound of your own voice. That's all you have to do, is vibrate this sound. And this sound becomes your companion. This sound becomes something that you become addicted to. Addiction is not a wrong. Addiction gets a bad rap in the world today. But addiction's not the problem. It's what you're addicted to is the problem. And if we actually understand the reality of the situation that we're in the material world is we're all addicts. We're all addicted to sense gratification. We're all addicted to finding or trying to find pleasure in this world. Trying to find lasting happiness in this world and working very hard for it. Very hard for it. And ultimately we lose. We lose. But with further knowledge and understanding, you realize, well, this has been going on for a lot of lifetimes. I'm so addicted to this that I'm prepared to go through the repetition of birth and death to pursue the satisfaction of my mind and my senses. Terrible situation. So, addiction is not the problem. It's what we're addicted to. So, somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, John Lennon asked Srila Prabhupada, how do you go about finding a spiritual master? And Prabhupada said, you find that person who's addicted to Krishna. Addiction is not a bad thing. Addiction is our nature. Did I talk about this before? I don't think so. That's good. I saw an interview with Russell Brand, who he went through a period of heroin addiction. He was addicted to heroin. And he made a very interesting comment about the process of recovery from heroin addiction. He said, I noticed that as I withdrew from my heroin addiction, my underlying addictive nature turned to something else. That's a very interesting understanding. My underlying addictive nature. We're meant to be addicted to Krishna. Actually, the root word is dictation. Dictation. Yes? Dict means the instructions, the guidance. Actually, in one sense, the voice of Krishna. Ad means you're surrendered to it. You become surrendered. And we're able to become surrendered to Krishna again because of the mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord. I mean, where would we be if not for Srila Prabhupada? What a debt of gratitude we have to Srila Prabhupada. Because, we weren't down the Rose and Crown on Friday nights talking about the meaning of life. Working out, well, am I going to follow Sankaracharya, or am I going to take to the Advaitin school of philosophy? None of this was a part of our lives. Never imagined it would be. Never had an inkling of this until along came Srila Prabhupada. He's very, very humble. He says in one point in the Bhagavad Gita that one should search out a devotee. Oh, we didn't even know what a devotee was. We didn't know. And so many people went to India looking for a guru. But they didn't find Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada found us. He came to us. He came to us. And you read the story of his life, and especially his early days in America, it was a very difficult thing he did. Very, very difficult. And he didn't do it for his own self-aggrandizement. He didn't do it for money. He didn't do it for wealth or fame or any kind of distinction. I mean, people all over the world, they know something about Hare Krishna, but they don't know anything really about Prabhupada because he never promoted himself. Quite the contrary. But if not for him, we wouldn't have found that. That door was revealed to us. The way out of here was revealed to us. And the means was revealed to us. And it's so simple. Just become addicted to this sound vibration. And Prabhupada always used to say, be careful, you will become addicted. And here you are, here I am, fully fledged addict. But is there any harm in this addiction? Is there any harm? Am I killing myself? Am I destroying the health of my mind and body? Quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. It just gets better and better and better as the years go by. So addiction's not bad. Just get the right addiction. Does anyone have any questions or any comments they want to make? Any little testimonies they want to give about their own experiences in chanting Hare Krishna?
Yeah, I could say something that when I chant Hare Krishna at home, I do a lot of chanting at home, my body vibrates. I have an energy vibration within my body, a shake. I'm happy. It starts at the base of the spine and works up the back until eventually it covers the arms and shoulders. This is, I don't know when anybody else gets this experience, but I do. Yeah? That's my experience of chanting it. It changes my outlook in life. It makes me aware of the good things in my life. Right? So, to talk about gratitude, it makes me feel grateful for everything in my life. Okay, it's only what I'm doing it. I get back into the addiction, if you like to call it, of the normal way of life. But I do know that I can go there at times and get that release from the everyday what's happening. Sorry.
Thank you. This mantra, as I said, this is Krishna. Krishna becomes your companion, and your dearmost friend. You couldn't live without him, could you? Could you give up chanting? No. Can't do it. Because like any kind of addiction, like I had a friend, he was a binge drinking alcoholic, and he told me when he went into recovery, and he said the hardest thing to do in the recovery was one day his sponsor took him into a little room. There was just a little table there with a chair, a pad and a pen on the table, and he sat down with him for a few minutes and chit-chatted, and he said, all right, so your assignment for today is to write your goodbye letter to alcohol. And he said it was such a challenging experience because he suddenly realized this is a relationship that I've had for a very long time, and I'm very dependent on it in so many ways. This alcohol's been my friend, or supposedly been my friend, but now I'm aware how much harm it's doing me, and I've got to let it go. But the attachment was there, the deep attachment, because in the beginning, it got him through some very difficult times in his life. And it became like his friend, his support, his crutch. But then, of course, the long-term effects are obvious. But the same thing happens with chanting Hare Krishna. And Krishna says, and Prabhupada makes this very clear in his elucidation. Well, it's very clear. Krishna says, I'm Suridam Sarvabhutanam. I'm the dearmost friend of every living entity. And that's what happens when you chant. You become aware that Krishna's your friend. Krishna's your friend. And he's a very special friend. Because there's three things you can be sure of about Krishna. Nobody knows the material energy like Krishna does, because it's his. And nobody, therefore, has the wherewithal to help you deal with this material energy. And thirdly, no one has the compassion that Krishna has. Krishna is very kind. That's the other thing. It's a very forgiving process. You may, like you say, we all get, the world is very distracting. And just to get to do the day-to-day in the world is very preoccupying. So we can forget. We can forget. But Krishna's very kind. He's not keeping score. Like I often say to people, when you go to the temple and you see the deity of the Lord, and you might not have been for some time, he's smiling. Now, of course, when you say, well, that's just a statue. But we understand that the deity is Krishna. Krishna is manifesting himself, his form, to our eyes through elements that we can see. We can't, Krishna's all-pervading, but we can't see him because these eyes that we're seeing through only give us very limited vision. So we can't see Krishna, but Krishna can manifest himself to us. So the deity is Krishna. The deity is alive. And he's never frowning at you. Nobody, I've never met anyone who's like been to the temple sometime and come out and they say, oh, Krishna was really angry with me. He looked at me. He never. He's always smiling. And he's come into the world because he's our friend. And he understands our condition in this world, how we've got ourselves in a mess in this world, entangled in this world. And he's offering us companionship, support, knowledge, everything. And then he says, and I will deliver you. I will, like I said right at the beginning, you become conscious of me, you become consciously dependent on me through cultivation of actual knowledge. And you will cross over all the obstacles of material life by my grace. If you become conscious of me, Krishna conscious. And the biggest obstacle we face is what I was talking about before, is death. And then resultant rebirth. And as the saying goes, God knows where. So, don't give it up. Don't give it up. Stick with it. Yes? And what helps is right from what I said. Be grateful for this opportunity. If we understand we're eternal, but we've been entangled in the repetition of birth and death in the material world for an immemorial amount of time, there's no understanding, no comprehension of how long we've been in this situation of birth, old age, disease, death, repeat, over and over and over and over and over again, again and again and again and again. But if we understand that, well, actually, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be in a material body to be alive. I'm in the material body, and therefore it appears to be alive anyway, but it's never alive. And as soon as I leave this body, it's revealed for what it is, just a bag full of elements, chemicals, bones, muscles, so on. So Krishna is very kind. He's very kind. And he wants us back with him. That's the kicker, right at the bottom of the whole thing. Is Krishna wants us to be with him forever. He wants us back in our eternal situation. No more birth, old age, disease, and death. That's the basic characteristic of the spiritual world. There's no birth, there's no old age, there's no disease, there's no death. Conspicuous by their absence, we regain our eternal nature. We regain our position on the eternal platform of life. This doesn't come around very often. This opportunity does not come around very often. And here we are. Here we are on this planet at this time with this Hare Krishna movement going on, and somehow or another we've been picked up by it. And we've been given an opportunity. We've been given an opportunity, and we need to understand the full ramifications of that opportunity and take it. Take that opportunity. And Krishna's made it so simple. Just chant. Just keep chanting. No matter what. Just keep chanting. And there will be many impediments. There's always impediments. Anything you try to do, there's always things in your way. There's always things you have to surmount, get beyond. So it doesn't matter what your endeavor is in life, that's going to go on. So do it. Make this endeavor. What do you got to lose? Well, you ain't got nothing. You've got nothing to lose. And nobody in this world has got anything. Nothing belongs to us. Nothing we acquire in this struggle to create a better future for ourselves and have all the possessions that we want. None of that goes with us when you die. It all stays here. Even this body stays here. But we go somewhere. You gotta go somewhere. Gotta go. So Krishna says, come to me. How? Chant Hare Krishna. That's it. Just make this a part of your life. Make this mantra your friend, your companion, and Krishna will never